Thank you, everyone. My name is Mickey from Nissan Global Marketing. It's such a privilege to be here with many of our marketing colleagues. And Stephan, thank you for inviting me. I think today's topic is a lot around marketing effectiveness, right? And also ATMs about sports, gaming, entertainment, and music. So I kind of wanted to see how we can marry those two themes together. So as you mentioned, when it comes to marketing effectiveness, it's most of the time our left side of the brain kicks in. Everything has to be logical, everything has to be measurable. You have your finance community asking, or your C-suite executives telling you, how is your brand building driving our revenue? Do you have metrics that matter in place for your internal stakeholders? But I also would like to think that there is your right side of the brain, which is around emotions. And this is where I feel that brand engagement and experience plays a key role, especially through strategic partnerships with sports and entertainment, which I'd like to get into a bit of details about. So this is actually not new when it comes to sports partnerships that we do at Nissan. So this is one of my favorite examples. Back in 2008, so 15 years ago, when probably esports wasn't a thing yet, but we partnered with Gran Turismo, and we said, can we actually make your great sim racers into real racers? It was a daring, bold idea. We talked to Gran Turismo, and we actually did it for a couple of years. And in fact, one of the famous ones, Jan Mardenborough, has become a Le Mans winner. He came in third place and took the podium. So this is one of the great examples of how we wanted to tap into sports, gaming, and entertainment in leveraging our brand. And I promise I am not on commission, but as you can see, it is on theaters right now. It has become a Hollywood movie, most recently, starring Orlando Bloom, David Harbour, directed by Neil Blomkamp. So if you ever have a chance, please do have a look. So back to what we do with sports and entertainment partnerships. So over the past 15 years, we have been tracking how our partnership has performed. So this is just a simple chart that's telling us, based on data and the history, we know that our audience, who is deeply engaged and aware of the partnerships that we have, whether it be sports or entertainment, has a much, much higher engagement with our brand and the understanding of our brand. So backed by data, we understood that this is the direction that we want to take as Nissan in partnerships. And today, we want to kind of just briefly explain to you some of the key initiatives that we're working on right now. But before that, just very four basic, I would agree, I'm sure our marketing colleagues would agree, 4 pillars that we have defined in how we think about partnerships and collaboration with sports and entertainment. First and foremost, you need to tap into the emotions of your audience. In Nissan, we call them adventures for life. Secondly, you obviously need to deliver your brand promise. In our case, it's all around innovation for excitement. And then thirdly, increasing familiarization of our electrified products. At the end of the day, we're selling cars, and electrified, our EVs, is going to be the core of our business. As a matter of fact, Walter from Asia Insights this morning asked me, what's happening with electrification in Nissan? Well, everyone is racing towards electrification. I would say every single auto manufacturer is trying to make electrification work. The struggle for us as Nissan is we commercialized the electric vehicle in 2010, more than 13 years ago with the Nissan Leaf. You probably don't think of Nissan as an EV brand, right? You think of Teslas, you think of BYDs and all the upcoming Chinese brands. So again, going back to our roots of how we pioneered this and making sure that we're increasing the familiarization of our product lineup is key. And then lastly, with any other partnerships, we want to provide a platform to drive change and do good. So 3 things that I wanted to quickly share. I know we're kind of pressed for time, but let me try to go through all of them because I think these are all great examples that I would love to share with you all. So City Football Group, I'm sure many of you are aware, they're the parent company of Manchester City. Pole to pole, this was an interesting expedition partnerships that we're doing with a Scottish couple. And then the last one is our Nissan Formula E team. So starting with City Football, this has actually evolved from a sponsorship type of approach where we have our Nissan brand in their stadiums or in their jerseys to a more commercial partnerships. So the picture that you see to the far left, this is our J-League team, Yokohama Marinos, which Nissan owns, has won 2 J-League titles in the past four years. And this is all because of the partnership or the business collaborations that we have with City Football, where they have provided the knowledge and the expertise coming from Man City in player analysis, in coaching. And that has really led to the success of the Yokohama Marinos. So instead of, again, a marketing partnership, that it has evolved to a more commercial and business relationship. Secondly, Pep Guardiola, I'm sure if there's a Man City fans out there, you know who he is. He's a great believer in electric vehicles. So we have used him as our ambassador to promote our Aria, which is our flagship SUV. The third one that you see there is with the Manchester City Women's Football Club. So I think the keynote was with the FIFA Women's World Cup. I know it has gained significant traction in the past couple of years, but we have been working very closely with Manchester City Women's Football Club since 2008. And then lastly, this is the Etihad Stadium. It's the home of Man City. We're actually partnering with them in how we can bring Second Life EV batteries to be used as renewable energy in the stadium. So a lot of different angles that we've looked at in how we can partner in enhancing the collaboration with City Football. The second one is pole to pole. This is quite an interesting one. This is really our brand in action. So I don't know if you're all familiar, but we have our flagship SUV, the Nissan Aria. We've basically given the Aria to 2 Scottish explorers, Chris and Julie Ramsey, who really harnesses, the power of renewable energy. And they're basically going from the North Pole all the way down to the South Pole, 27 kilometers, and using the Nissan Aria. The Nissan Aria is not modified. It comes with standard battery, standard powertrains. The only thing we probably changed is the little fenders and the tires to go through the Arctics. But other than that, it's all our normal commercial vehicle. They've just made it through Mexico on their way down to South America, and hopefully by the end of the year, they will reach the Antarctica without our Aria breaking down. Lastly, Nissan Formula E team. So this is, again, we have a Formula E team. I'm not sure if a lot of you are aware. Everyone knows Formula One. It's Formula One weekend this weekend. But we are very much involved in investing in Formula E team because this is where we see as the future of motorsports. So this is a fully electrified Formula car race under the FIA. Again, not as popular as F1 just yet, but we are really invested in developing our team within Formula E. The car that you see to the left, this is called a single-seater concept, the Aria single-seater concept. An interesting story about this is that if you think about F1, the whole approach is track to road. So all the advanced engineering, the innovation that goes onto the track is then applied to your commercial vehicles. That's why you see the likes of Ferraris and the Mercedes invest in them. It's the same for Formula E as well. But what is different is we can actually take a reversed approach from road to track. So the single-seater concept, basically what we've done is taking the normal powertrain of our SUV Aria and then fit them into a single-seater concept, which then we wanted to prove that our engineering today can actually be proven for the performance on the track. So a lot of initiatives around Formula E with Nissan. So again, I hope that's kind of given you an idea of how we've taken partnership strategy, tapping into the emotions of our audiences, but really evolving that into collaborations rather than a simple kind of, we pay for sponsorship, we need branding on every single touch point of what we're paying for. So again, making our brand relevant, making the idea of collaboration at the heart of what we do in driving brand engagement and experience. So lastly, just wanted to quickly touch on what's ahead for us. So that's what we're doing with partnerships. But we are also thinking ahead. A lot of the topics that you've probably heard in the last 2 days around virtual third places, generative AI, co-creation and community commerce. So I like to call it supercharged marketing collaborations. So these are really the 4 areas that we're working on, very, very aggressively towards what we can do in the next 1 to 2 years in Nissan. And hopefully in the upcoming ATMs and WFA forums, we can touch on some of these. Just as an example for generative AI, our designers actually started using generative AI in how they develop the styling of our cars. So you would think that's one area that AI will not be able to help with. It's actually not true. We're taking a lot of the inspirations that comes out of the generative AI, whether it be lines or shapes, and then using that as a stimulus in creating and styling an actual car. So just a little background story there. But that's what I wanted to share with you. And again, I hope that was useful in thinking about what it means to Nissan in driving an Asian, global Asian brand in the space of collaboration and partnerships.
Thank you very much, Miki-san. Thank you very much, Miki-san. Absolutely fascinating to get this insider view on how Nissan is thinking about those partnerships. Now, I want to bring this conversation back into the theme of today, which is marketing effectiveness. Partnerships, you're investing a lot of efforts, a lot of resources into those longer-term partnerships. And you're working at Nissan. You're working at Nissan, a company that is listed on the stock market, that reports results on a quarterly basis. And I'm sure you must have this pressure of getting the sort of short-term performance right, and at the same time being able to justify significant longer-term investments in brand building. How do you balance that?
That's a great question, Stephan. And to be honest with you, I don't have a magic formula for that. I would love to get more inspiration from many of the colleagues here today. But I think what we could say is, and it's a trial and error process. I've learned so many things that we've tried that hasn't worked. I'm sure many of you can relate to your relationship with your finance community, which you talked about. Again, I think a lot of them would be coming to you with your short-term gains, and then you have a number to hit for your quarter. How much do we need to optimize? One of the things that we tried, and I think it has started to work, was creating kind of this integrated marketing investment team, so which is cross-functional. It's not just marketing who is spending, but also my finance counterpart, my procurement, and also with an executive endorsement, looking at the metrics that we have in place in identifying what is short-term and what is long-term, and then having that conversation, having an honest conversation about what is and what we feel isn't working. So again, and I think that kind of starts with building that relationship, as you mentioned. In fact, my previous finance head used to join all of the WFA marketing forums. And I said, guys, come over here, let's join this forum together. I want you to see what we do in marketing, and really getting them to understand what we're trying to do. And sometimes it could be as simple as that in making that human connection of understanding where we're coming from on both sides.
Excellent. Now, I mentioned in my intro that we ran a sort of big piece of research among global marketers in terms of understanding whether they are and how they are measuring longer-term brand building, longer-term brand equity.
Yeah.
Can you share with us now how you're thinking about that in Nissan?
Yeah, so I think when we talk about long-term and brand, how do you build brand equity? I think in the last couple of years, we went through so many different iterations of, how do you measure equity? What do we want to stand for? Is it comfort? Is it safety? Is it innovation? So all these type of things. So I think the key things that we did, we aligned with all of our executives and also with our finance community in a lot of the different functions to say that we will simplify what we want to stand for as a brand. So it's how do we want to be seen? How do we want to be perceived? And then we landed on a very simple metrics called the brand image attributes, which is around innovation and excitement. I know it sounds a little bit vanilla for some of you, but again, defining what that means for Nissan, because we believed that is some of the attributes that we want to stand for. So having a very simplified KPIs in place and how you measure your brand equity. The other part is when we talk about brand equity, we tend to look at this metric called the overall opinion, right? So it's basically, do you see Nissan as a positive brand or a positive company? We kind of failed. I shouldn't say fail. we kind of struggled in putting that long-term brand equity metrics in place because your overall opinion could change overnight. So you have one corporate scandal, you have one recall on one vehicle, you don't have a positive image of Nissan. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all the marketing efforts that we do across the different campaigns and the different launches is not effective or not. So that's why we've kind of took one layer down in understanding what is it that we want to stand for as a brand, as Nissan.
Maybe a word about how you're cascading this globally. I mean, Nissan is operating across so many different markets, and how is that managed from Nissan?
Yes, so I think that was the other challenge. I would say again, we are a big organization, a lot of layers, a lot of and different markets have their different agendas, and sitting in HQ is always kind of difficult to put everyone in the same room. But I think one thing that we have done is, first of all, taking a top-down approach of getting our C-suites on board and understanding what is marketing trying to achieve and having a clear KPI. And that is then kind of cascaded across the different leaders in the regions and the markets. The other thing is, for me at least, is the partnerships that we have with the agency. So we work with TBWA, OMD, under the Nissan United teams. We have we have the same KPIs. We actually have contracts in place saying that these are the KPIs that we're going to be measuring. These are the targets that we want to aim for this year and the year after and in 3 years' time. That suddenly becomes a commitment and a mutual commitment in understanding what is it that we're all trying to do and drive.
Excellent. Now, looking at marketing effectiveness, a lot about marketing effectiveness is about being able to predict how actually a marketing investment is going to be paying out for a brand. Now, when you think about the world we live in, just out of a global pandemic, the geopolitical tensions, the economic uncertainty, and then you add to that, the category, automotive, that is now going through huge disruption. I mean, you're living in an environment that is simply so incredibly fluid. Now, how do you factor that into your marketing effectiveness model? How can you manage that uncertainty?
I hope I have an answer from a lot of the colleagues here today. But I think one of the things that we have been trialing, and you're right, the whole COVID disruption in our industry, right after COVID, our semiconductor chip shortage came about. So it was like a double hit for us. So we came out of COVID and then we couldn't manufacture cars because we didn't have the chips. So again, for 2-3 years, we've had a very long time struggling with how we deal with volatility. Again, I think when we looked at how we maneuver through that, we did heavily rely on and invested in a lot of the analytical tools. Because again, if you go into a boardroom and talking about, we're not going to be able to produce X amount of cars, why are you spending this much money on marketing? So that's the typical conversations that you have. But again, I think this is where a data-driven approach makes sense, obviously. Looking at what our tools are telling us, it could be your marketing mix modeling tools, it could be all sorts of analytical tools, but putting kind of that into a very simple framework that everyone can understand has been really key for us in driving that conversation. So I wouldn't say it's been perfect. They would still say, I can throw out all the data and what my tools is telling me, but then your executives say, nope, not this quarter. So again, it's really a trial and error, but at least that's where we are starting on Nissan, and especially with my teams.
Excellent. Mikimasa, I'm aware that we're short on time, but I'd like to end on one question. So you're in charge of global partnerships at one of Asia's most valuable global brands, which is Nissan. You hear about all those transformations happening all around us. What is the one thing that makes you most excited about partnership and marketing going forward?
Partnership for Nissan. Well, going forward, I think, there is actually a lot in the pipeline at the moment. I talked a little bit about Gran Turismo, and that was one of the key initiatives that we did, and it's just launched in theaters. But I think as we think ahead, the big thing for us is the upcoming Japan Mobility Show. So, as a Japanese auto company, having presence in these auto shows is always quite crucial. But then it's not simply about how you bring those kind of show cars on stage, but really thinking about how do we use that as a platform, but at the same time tapping into different technologies. So the gentleman just now talk about Web3s and NFTs. That's actually some of the areas that we're trying to test out with the Japan Mobility Show in October, in addition to what we're showcasing in our booth. So outside of what is happening in the booth, through even working with Fortnite and trying to tap into new audiences, and then making activations not just on site but outside, in bringing digital technologies in kind of this digital experience for our customers through there. So again, lots coming in the pipeline, especially in the next 4 weeks. We'll be very busy, and I hope we get to see that in 4 weeks' time and what we're doing there.
Thank you, Miki-san. Ladies and gentlemen, Miki-san, thank you.